Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. So in this episode of 5-Minute Java, I'll be going over if statements. And before I start, I'd just like to remind you to subscribe for more Java and programming videos because it really helps the channel and it's completely free. Anyway, let's get into the video. In this episode, like I said, we'll be going over if statements, and if statements are a very important part of Java and any programming language for that matter, to basically do things if something is true or do other things if that thing is not true. So here I have this loop that we did in the previous video about for loops, and it's very common to have if statements in for loops, which is why I kind of recycled this little piece of code. So now within this for loop, I can do an if statement. So to do an if statement, you start saying if, then open parentheses, and then you do your condition. So the condition is what you're checking. So for example, I may want to check if I is greater than 5, and now if that's true, then the if statement will execute. Otherwise, it'll just skip. So once I type in the condition, I would do open brackets and then enter to create two brackets. And be very careful not to put a semicolon anywhere like here, because that will basically make the if statement always be true, and you don't want that to happen. So make sure you don't have a semicolon there. This is your condition. Now you have what would happen if that condition is true. I can just print that out. And then the next part of the if statement is technically is optional, but it's very useful sometimes, is an else if. And this is basically, if this is not true, then try this, and then if that's also not true, just keep going and just skip. Because this is useful because sometimes you have if statements that are not mutually exclusive. For example, if I had one that's I is greater than 5, and then I had one that's I is greater than 2, then like certain numbers would meet both of those criteria. But sometimes you only want one criteria to be able to met. You don't want an object to be continuing being able to be checked afterwards. So if I had an if statement like this, if I had if and then I is greater than 3 or something like that, then that would mean that any I would have the opportunity to meet this and this. But maybe we don't want that all the time. So that's why we have the else if, meaning that if this is true, then it would not go here. But if this is false, then it would try this as well. And then here again, you would do whatever you want to happen inside of here. I'm just going to say I is less than 3. And then now you can do as many else if statements as you want. And then once you're done, you can do an else, which means if all of these are false, then no matter what, it will do this else, which is like the final resort case. And you don't have to do a condition for this because it's just happening no matter what if everything else is false. So you can just print out else. Yeah, and do whatever you want there. And to clarify, once you've kind of finished a family of if statements like this, you have an if, else if, and then else. You don't have to have all components. You can have an if and an else if, or just an if and an else, or just one if. You can still create other if statements later. But like I said, be careful because this will still check even if this is true, whereas an else if will not check if this is true. And so yeah, again, the if statement condition can be anything at all. You can also include multiple conditions. So I can do and by saying 2 ampersands and then saying I is greater than 0. Or you could do an or statement. So I can do I is greater than 5 or I is less than 0, which is actually not possible, but just if you want to try it. And again, put the brackets. And then you can combine as many ors and ampersands as you want, and just make sure to divide them up with parentheses. And you can also do an exclamation mark to say not. So you can do exclamation I is less than 3. So this is basically saying if not I is less than 3. So if this is true, then you flip the boolean. So if this is true, then it becomes false. If this becomes false, then it becomes true. So that's what the exclamation does. So yeah, that's just a quick introduction to if statements. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, again, make sure to subscribe for more Java videos and programming videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.